You're too focused on results. That's one of the biggest problems I see happen with people who are learning to code. You're constantly looking for that job. You're constantly hoping and dreaming, when will you land that job? And when will this misery of coding, learning JavaScript, learning React will be over? This is a sure, guaranteed way to make your life miserable, your journey feel about 10 to 15 times as long, and for you to not feel essentially any ounce of happiness. Avoid this. It's a trap. It's a pitfall. A lot of people fall for this. Andrew Huberman, he's a PhD, a scientist, and he researches at Harvard University, I believe, and he researches dopamine and how that works and functions inside of our brain. One of the things he talks about is when you become too focused on the outcome rather than the thing that you're actually focused on. So let's say you're constantly focusing on the reward that you're going to get from coding, which is you're going to get a job one day. If that's your primary focus, it's crazy, but dopamine actually controls your perception of time. So what that means is when you're constantly focusing on the reward, it extends out your time. Your perception of time actually becomes incredibly long because you're constantly thinking about when this thing will end, and you get your dopamine hit and that excitement that you want to experience at the end, not during the process. You feel the excitement, the happiness, the joy, the dopamine hit once it's done. So for example, if you had a 3-month-long coding journey or a 6-month-long or a 9-month-long coding journey to get your first job, you would experience your first dopamine hit at the 9th month mark when you would get your job. Now compare that to somebody else. Say you're up against somebody like me, who every day is coding, loving it, feels like it's a video game, feels like it's illegal that clients should be paying him the day that he gets a job. I'm having the time of my life, and I'm getting dopamine after dopamine hit. Every single line of code that I write, every time I'm thinking about an idea, every time I'm trying to express a thought and bring it to life. And I'm constantly getting those dopamine hits. I'm constantly excited. I'm constantly happy. When I get my first job in 9 months, to me, it feels like time hasn't even passed. It feels like time flew by. For you, it feels like an eternity has taken place. So that's a very simple concept that it should explain to you that dopamine actually controls our perception of time. Now imagine you're doing something you really enjoy. Something you really, really enjoy. What happens to the time? You look at the clock. Man, 5 hours have just flown by. You look at the clock again. 8 hours have flown by. What is going on? Time's flying. It can't stop. Think about something you really hate. You're at the DMV getting your license registration, or if you're international and somewhere else in the world, whatever your equivalent is to driver's license or some kind of government thing where you're waiting for hours and hours and hours. Imagine like a flight. You're waiting for the flight. You waited a long time. You know that it took a long time. Why? Because you're not getting any dopamine hits throughout the process. And so the perception of your time is actually incredibly long. This reminds me of a story, which was I went to my religious school for 4 years, from the age of 9 to about 12 years old. And every single day I would get there. I'm a little kid, right? I'm 9 years old, really scrawny, tiny, in Chicago, brutal winter. So you come inside the school, the religious school. It was called a madrasa. And I would come there, and I'm freezing, right? The teacher comes up to me. He goes, "Did you memorize the homework?" And, I memorized about like maybe 1 page, but not the 2 pages that I was assigned. He goes, "Okay, lift up your pants." So like basically reveal your pants all the way up to your shins. So like pull up your pants up to your knees or whatever, right? So your shins are visible. So he'd make sure the shins are visible. And then he would go to the bathroom, take out a plunger, take the red head of the plunger off, the plunger you use in the toilet. He would take that off. You'd be left with this thick wooden stick. And he would just take that and whack it and smash it against your shins. And he would just hit you over and over again. And it would, my shins would get so bruised up, and I would feel like my shins are gonna break. And a wooden stick hurts especially harder when you've just come from cold. So when your hands are actually very, very cold, from like negative 10 degrees or negative 5 degrees, the Chicago winter feels like negative 20, negative 30. When you get hit, it hurts like crazy. It has a real sting to it. Very crazy sting to it. And it'll burn you. And it'll stay there for a while. And that would happen. And that was just when I got in, maybe at 7 or 8 a.m. to enter the religious school. And I'm hurting, and I'm like, my body's destroyed. Then throughout the day, you'd be punished over and over and over again. Lots of crazy punishments. Okay, become a chicken. Go down, bring your hands through your legs, hold onto your ears, and then, recite and read extremely loudly to the max of your volume. So you would be reading and reciting so loudly for hours on end that your veins would be like popping, out of your neck. And I would be doing that, and I'd be in so much pain and agony, and I would have felt like maybe 30 hours have gone by, like 20 hours have gone by, and I would look at the time, look at the clock, and it would be 1 or 2 p.m. And I'd be like, fuck, I have a whole more day to go of this. And that day would go on, and that day would last until, and there were a lot of other crazy things that, I don't feel totally comfortable sharing, but like everybody, even in that school, was crazy. Even the adult kids would like beat you up, bully you. Everybody's bullying each other. And, so it was crazy, but the time would go so slowly, and we would be there until 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at a time. So get there at 8 a.m., sometimes be there 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Long, incredibly long days. And I remember every time I would be leaving there, I would just be sitting there and thinking, man, like, is this ever going to end? Is this what my life is going to be like for the rest of my life? And I just remember always thinking, this feels like I'm in hell. And this feels like I'm in prison. And it feels like it's never going to end. At the end of the day, I would be laughing with my friends, and I would be talking. I'm like, dude, this feels like prison. Like, this is never going to end, bro. Like, this shit is wild. And that was just one day, right? Then you'd go again 4 more days of that week. And then every week, again and again and again and again and again, for weeks and months and months, and to turn into years, 3-4 years. How those 4 years felt like it was about 12, 15 years. And I always jokingly say this, but I kind of mean it, that it felt like I did time. I did prison time for 4 years. It felt miserable. But what I learned really well from that, I mean, I don't want you guys to think of it like as I'm trying to tell you like a victim story, feel sad for me. I actually developed a lot of resilience in my life. Every day I wake up and I don't get the shit beaten out of me is an amazing day for me. Whereas somebody else wakes up and they've crushed it and they wake up sad. I feel sad for them. My self-esteem, because of that, not that it has gotten lower, but I just feel like I don't deserve anything. And every day, like, I'm supposed to be that kid who gets beat up. And if I just don't get beat up, I'm happy as fuck. Turned into my strength. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is dopamine is a very powerful receptor and controller of time. It controls your perception of time. So if you have gone through that experience, or something similar, I know you guys have had probably really tough upbringings too, and everybody goes through problems in their own way, in their own childhood with your parents, and maybe you had something what I think is even worse, like your parents putting a lot of pressure on you. My parents, kind of put pressure on me, but not really that much. Plus, I was a black sheep and never really cared and just did my own thing. But I know a ton of people, and I know I have a big Indian audience, and a lot of you guys, your parents are crazy. Your parents are like really strict, right? I'm Pakistani, and my parents were super strict. So that can be psychologically very demanding and very excruciating, and it teaches you to live life in a way where everything feels like an obligation. You don't necessarily know how to do things for fun. You're almost like this prisoner with suffering from PTSD and going through life. Like you can barely smile. You just do things because you're meant to do them, because somebody told you to do them. You're just trying to achieve something so you can prove something to somebody. And it creates a really fucked up, warped reality. Why this is important and why I'm talking less about coding right now, and this is because I'm realizing these are the real problems people are suffering from. These are the real issues that are actually stopping you from learning, becoming better as a software developer, coding, because you have all this baggage that you actually bring. But back to my point of dopamine. If you don't learn how to enjoy the process, things are going to feel like an eternity for you. How my religious school felt for me, felt like an eternity. For you, trying to get a coding job will feel like an excruciating pain. How my religious school felt like prison time, it will feel like prison time to you. So a few amazing things that I picked up from the religious schools. One, I became incredibly resilient in my life. Two, I made a decision. If I don't enjoy something, I mean, there's discipline and everything, so there's that too. But like, if I'm not enjoying the thing that I'm going to do in life, I just have no tolerance for it. If I don't believe in it, and if I don't enjoy it, and I don't know why I'm doing it, I have zero tolerance for that thing. I think for you, it's important to know why you're doing something. Understand why you're doing something. Because you can, like, I'll be specific. In my religious school, I was supposed to memorize Quran. Okay, so think about this. I'm memorizing in a language I don't actually understand. They never taught me the language. So imagine memorizing something for 4 years without knowing what it means. Now, I'm not saying all religion is like this. There are places where they'll teach it to you in a beautiful way, where you'll learn the meaning behind it and everything. That wasn't our school. We just memorized it. Now think about how nonsensical that is, because there's hard drives. there are like, Google Cloud and Dropbox and everything on the planet that could store materials. So you don't actually need to physically with your head memorize stuff and keep it, right? Because the idea is if everybody forgets, well, then the people who have it in their head will remember. But like, now you have machines, now you have computers, you could store it there. The more important thing would have been to teach me the language Arabic, to actually make me understand what this book says. I have no idea what the book says. The reason why I'm going so far into my own personal life is I want to draw out these analogies for you, because a lot of you are spending time coding but not going deep into it, and you have no idea what you're even doing. You're just going through tutorials and you have no understanding of what it is that you're actually doing, because you don't enjoy it. Because every time you're doing it, it's almost like you're in pain until you get that job. If you're in pain, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to take the extra time to learn what that thing means. You're just going to take the time to be done with your pain. That 2-hour session is going to feel like brutal amounts of work. My message to you is find the joy in the process of learning to become a software developer, learning to code. Please find the joy. Enjoy that process, because it's beautiful, man. Like, coding is amazing. You're getting to speak to this powerful genie. You can tell it what to do and it'll do it. You just have to learn to speak its language. You can take all the thoughts that you have in your head, bring them to life. I mean, it's just so cool. It feels like you're playing a video game. It's very creative. And there are people that are going to pay you for that. I mean, that's nuts. To me, that thought is kind of ridiculous. Or you might realize it's just not for you, at which point I congratulate you, because in life, there are two things that are extremely important: what to do, and I think the thing that's even more important than that is what not to do. There are only two things: what to do, what not to do. What not to do, I would argue, is even more important. For example, I learned in my life, I hated information technology, IT stuff, subnet masking, computer networking. I hated that stuff. It was garbage for me. It was garbage. I hated it. I decided what not to do. Put it on my not to do list. Helped me out tremendously in life. I also learned that if I put my hand on something incredibly hot, it'll burn the fuck out of me. My hand burned at some point when I was actually young. It was a terrible experience. And I learned, wait, let me put touching fire in my not to-do list. Let me also put falling off of really high heights in my not to-do list. So my not to-do list actually gets me to survive every single day and move forward in the, hey, don't eat this food. It'll make you fat and disease-ridden. Hey, don't do these activities like drinking at night, because you're actually just poisoning yourself. That's all that alcohol does. You're actually, because you can't develop social skills and you lack social skills, you're just drowning yourself in this liquid that poisons your liver every day, because that's your coping mechanism. Hey, you don't need to drink coffee. The only reason you're drinking coffee is because you're masking the fact that you're not sleeping properly and that your nutrition is messed up. That's why you're actually feeling tired. So coffee is in my not to-do list. Alcohol is in my not to-do list. Touching fire is in my not to-do list. It's very important. When I felt abuse and I felt the pain of people who were narcissistic and who would physically beat you and emotionally and mentally beat you, I put narcissistic behavior in my not to-do list. So now my relationships in life are better. So not to do is actually very important. So if you decide that computer programming is in your not to do list, I congratulate you. I salute you. You've actually made a tremendous amount of progress. And that opens you up to a whole world of discovering other things, because there's so much to life besides just coding. So your not to do list is incredibly important. Become friends with it. Don't fight it. Okay? Bring discipline and work ethic to things that are really valuable and meaningful. Don't bring discipline and work ethic to things that don't make sense, like me just memorizing a book without understanding any of its meaning. Bring meaning to things that are supposed to have meaning. Okay? Bring discipline to the things that deserve you bringing discipline into them. Okay? That's my message to you. Do that for your own life. I hope that you enjoy coding and I hope that you fall in love with it. But if you don't, then also understand that it might just not be a thing for you. Okay, so don't just force yourself to do it. But if you're going to do it and you've committed to doing it, then find joy in it. Find the process fun. Like even when I'm doing my Muay Thai training, it's brutal. It's brutal training. And most of the times when I'm doing it, I apologize. I have a meeting in 1 minute, so I'll wrap up this video. But if even in Muay Thai, when the workout is brutal, I keep telling myself I'm enjoying it. And Andrew Huberman, you guys should listen to his podcast on dopamine and how it controls your motivation. It's incredible. He talks about if you can control it. If you keep telling yourself that you're actually enjoying it, you chose to be there for Muay Thai. I chose to be there. I'm choosing to go through this pain. You start enjoying it. So now I'm actually start looking forward to Muay Thai. Now I'm looking forward to lifting. And the only reward I give myself is a reward of the pain and the suffering that I actually experience. I'm not going to give myself the reward once I get a six-pack, once I become a fighter and knock somebody out. I'm going to give myself the reward during the hard work. So for coding, reward yourself mentally. Tell yourself, I'm enjoying the process of coding. I love how difficult it is. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I only do hard things. I'm blessed that I get to do something so difficult that most people want to quit and can't keep up. I enjoy this. This is beautiful. When my head hurts trying to solve a problem, that's actually a brilliant thing. because I know people are falling off right now. People are quitting, but I'm going. I enjoy this process. The more my brain's going to hurt, that's not my brain hurting. That's the feeling of my brain growing. That's the feeling of my brain growing. Associate the pain and the suffering that comes with coding and thinking deeply for so long with growth. You're becoming smarter. You're able to perceive more. You're able to intellectually understand more. Your capacity to think is greater. You're a much better, more thoughtful, more intelligent, more capable, more competent human being than you were a few hours before you were doing that. Look at it as a mental exercise that you can enjoy. Once you can do that over a prolonged period of time, the results will come. But the results shouldn't even be why you do it. I love you.